Battle of the Challenges podcast with Vincent Cloud, and this is the top 10 richest challenge finalists. Meaning, we're only going to talk about those challengers who get paid in a final to appear in and run in an MTV Challenge final. And those episodes are like the Super Bowl. They're the main event. They're Ronda Rousey versus Holly Holm, main event supercard, so either way you're making money. So let's talk about the 10th richest challenger, Real World Sarah Rice. Her first appearance, this is her rookie season, she's in season 18, The Ruins. She finds herself in Phuket, Thailand, playing for the challengers team, running a final against the champions team. As far as I can tell, Sarah and her teammate Kellyanne were in the lead throughout the majority of this final. They were against the champions Evan, Derek, Susie, Kenny, and Johnny. The challengers, they were actually in the lead until they ran into one of the obstacles with balance beams, and Kellyanne was the one that struggled. So the champions were eventually able to catch up to them, and I think that the challengers were ahead by a couple of obstacles, a couple of checkpoints, but it was at that balance beam that they're surpassed, and they get the final puzzle. And like this puzzle, I don't even understand to this day, and I've seen this final plenty of times. So they both end up just working at this puzzle, but eventually it's the champions, Susie and Evan, that really crack the code, and the champs are able to take off. I don't even think that Kellyanne and Sarah solved the puzzle. I think they timed out. So basically they just had to run after the champions, but the champions were able to finish right around the time. I mean, I just remember Sarah being able to hear the champs cheer, just not too far away from outside the ruins. They're running. They're like, God damn it. So Sarah may have lost that final, but she ends up banking $17,689. Now, she got that from her individual bank account from that season. She eliminated Katie, the champion Katie, and she eliminated champion Johanna. So she earned quite a bit of money just by doing, I think she won one mission and then she inherited the rest of the money from the champions that she beat. So now Sarah's third appearance, season 20 Cutthroat, she finds herself in Prague, the Czech Republic, playing for Team Grey, running a final against Team Red and Team Blue. These were three big teams against each other. This has never been done before. And what I have to say about this is that Sarah and Abram have to be taken away in an ambulance. They both fell ill. They both were throwing up. They were dizzy. And they were both ultimately pulled out of the final. First it was Abram. And then shortly after that, Sarah was doing the exact same thing. It's interesting because I've heard over the years that Abram may have tried to actually, take a dive. Yeah, he was trying to throw it or something like that. Because I think he didn't eat breakfast or drink any water that morning or something before running it. I'm not really sure what it was. So when he starts to fall apart in the final, it kind of makes sense. And you're like, oh, okay, well then for some reason the lunatic did not want to win this. Like, who knows why? God knows why. He was probably just pimping out his book, actually. He said that. So when he goes down, it's that means something. But it means something entirely different when Sarah is coming down with the same illness, the same symptoms, doing exact same thing. The vomit was of the same viscosity. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it was pretty gross, and I'm just like, no, that's the exact same thing. So, I mean, what if they were poisoned by Team Red, Has anyone ever even thrown that out there? Speaking of Team Red did eventually win the final. Team Grey, they ended up getting second place. They ended up securing second place from Team Blue. So Sarah, even though she didn't personally cross the finish line with her team, she did end up banking $20,000. And leading up to this point, Sarah's team was actually the dominating team of the season. So next is Sarah's sixth appearance in season 23, Battle of the Seasons 2, Battle of Seasons 2012. I don't know what you want to call it. But she finds herself in Namibia, South Africa, playing for Team Brooklyn, running a final against Team San Diego and Team Las Vegas. All I have written down for this final is that Devin drags them down. Despite being good at puzzles, Brooklyn was great at the puzzles, great at the checkpoints. Once they got there, it was effortless for this team. But the running, the actual physical exertion, Devin sucked so badly. And they end up taking third place. They end up banking $10,000. What I have to say, leading up to this particular final, Sarah and Chet were trying to separate themselves from Devin and JD, because that's the way the eliminations went. It was like a guy and a girl, they have to pair off. And they always said from the very beginning, they're like, Devin, you and JD are useless, or at least you are, Devin, and we're not going to go down in the ship with you or whatever. But yeah, Sarah banks $10,000, her lowest paycheck to date. Okay, Sarah's 8th appearance in season 26, Battle of the Exes 2. She finds herself in Norway, playing with Jordan, running a final against Leroy and Teresa and Jay and Jenna. What I have written down here is Sarah and Jordan were untouchable. They were like ghosts. No other teams really had any interaction with Sarah and Jordan from the get-go. They were always so far ahead, where it was kind of a wash. I don't know if that's the correct term. And partly, I would say, is that they were up against layups and a team thrown together last minute. The layups in question are Jay and Jenna. They were the rookie team. They were seen as like, we're going to just throw them in at the very last elimination, or they're just going to be in the final just so we could beat their asses. That's easy money. And they were. They ended up quitting like checkpoint number 2 or something like that. And then the other team that Sarah and Jordan were up against were Leroy and Teresa. These two, Leroy and Teresa, were actually butting heads as two different opponents throughout the season. Leroy actually eliminated Teresa in the second to last elimination round, something like that. And then once Leroy's partner DQ'd, producers just gave him Teresa because they banged once, and this was Battle of the Exes 2. So this is a thrown together team. Them together for the first time for a final, they weren't able to pull anything out of it. What I'm saying is Sarah gets her first win, and she banks $125,000. That's nuts. That's a lot. The one thing I do have to add about this particular final is that Sarah and Jordan, they win the mission right before the final. Like that punched their ticket automatically into the final. You know what I'm saying? And this is the first and only time where the power couple gets to decide how the final begins, because right away Sarah and Jordan are like, well, we'll go first, and then Jay and Jenna, and then Leroy and Teresa. I always thought that was fucking crazy, and considering how the teams weren't even that fair to begin with, I always thought it was kind of a weak decision, kind of a bad decision on production's part. That's all I gotta say about that. Sarah Rice, total earnings $172,689. Let's move to the 9th richest challenger, Road Rules, Derek Kaczynski. Derek's second appearance, season 10, The Inferno 2. He finds himself in Mexico. I don't want to try and pronounce that. Manzanillo, Mexico? Playing for the Badasses team, running a final against the Good Guys team. Derek's team, they were being slowed down by Tanya and Tina. Good Guys, they weren't slowed down at all. They were a compact little unit of 4, and this was a pretty big team. I want to say 7, 6, maybe, yeah, about 7 players total. But yeah, it was Tanya and Tina. Derek lost, but he banked $10,000. Not bad. The one thing I got to say about leading up to this final is that the Badasses, they were well cast, because they were supposed to be the bad guys. And they truly were. They didn't get along very well at all. They were bullying each other up to that point. Let's get to Derek's 6th appearance, season 14, The Inferno 3. He finds himself in Somerset West, South Africa, playing for the Badasses team once again, running a final against the Good Guys team. Again. And this was basically an elongated puzzle. if you remember correctly. Like, they had to carry these big puzzle pieces to every single checkpoint, picking some puzzle pieces up along the way, and then reusing the puzzles because every side had a different shape or a different design on it. This time, Derek found himself on the unified team. The badasses worked very well together, and the good guys this time, they were actually, I think they were miscast. They actually did not get along, and there was a lot of internal affairs. Internal affairs? I don't know what I'm saying. But yeah, there was a lot of hate in that good guys team. And you saw like Johnny Bananas there, cast as a good guy. That didn't make any sense, you know? But anyways, hey, Derek, he finally wins. And this is, like I said, his 6th appearance. And that is like unheard of at that point. Like, no one's ever gone to so many challenges. And keep in mind, this is his 2nd final. And this is his 6th appearance. Like, everyone kept on saying, Derek, enough is enough, man. And he comes in, and he wasn't even due to be on this season. He was CT's replacement on that badasses team. So he gets there, he finally wins, he banks 40,000. But you know what? Derek was not done. He comes back for his 7th appearance in season 16, The Island. He finds himself on an island in Panama. I don't know how to pronounce that island in particular. The island in question. But he's playing for the red boat, running a final against the blue boat. And it's interesting because this is a very lopsided final. They get on this island, and the final is just like, hey, you guys divide into teams of your choice, by the way, which is fucked up because it's Derek with Kenny, Johnny Bananas, and Evelyn versus their opponents, Blue Boat, Paula, Robin, Jen, and Ryan. Like, it's messed up. Yeah, they basically got to choose each other's teams in the end. It was very controversial because Evelyn and those guys were butting heads the entire time. And it was this last second contract, and it turned out to be worth it because this was a huge purse. I mean, this is $75,000 each. Derek's 8th appearance was season 18, The Ruins. He finds himself in Phuket, Thailand, playing against the challengers. He's there with the champions. He's with his same alliance, basically, from last final on the island. Plus Evan, you have the JEK alliance running this time, along with Susie. All I have here is that they actually are behind the challengers for the most part, and they slowly catch up due to that little bamboo thing, and then they keep going, and they solve that puzzle. And so Derek, he banks $51,293. And leading up to this point, they had a dominating team. They only lost one mission the entire season. So Derek ends up, total earnings, $176,293. The 8th richest challenger, Road Rules, Jody Weatherton. Jody's 2nd appearance was season 11 of the Gauntlet 2. She finds herself in, god damn it, how do you pronounce this? Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago. Playing for the rookies team, running a final against the veterans team. This was like one of the shortest finals of all time. This was where your team had all these doubloons? Yeah. I'm thinking pirate money, booty. And you had these gold coins, basically. Each team, they have like these 3 main events, and you bet how much you think you could win and whatever. And basically the veterans team, they bet everything on this first round of just eating this food. I don't remember what it was called at all, but there was a lot of it, like pounds and pounds and pounds of it, I guess. But Jody was there, and she helped out eat the veterans team. And they didn't know it, but the veterans were like, well, shit, well, you just won the whole thing. And Jody's like, what? Like, we won? And that was it. So she won, and she banks $26,666. I'll have to say, leading up to this, very even teams. There was a great back and forth, and you really didn't know how it was going to end. And it was such a momentum killer, such a, I don't know, anticlimactic thing, ending that way, the way it did. But, who cares? Jody got to participate in that actual event, and a lot of people sat out of it and still made the money. Like, Landon, I think, MJ, Alton. Like, they didn't have to do anything, and they ended up winning. But yeah, Jody actually fucking ate. Okay, so now Jody's third appearance is in season 13, The Duel. She finds herself in Brazil. She's playing individually, running a final against Svetlana. What I have written here is that Jody beat Svetlana in a 2-minute head start from the soccer match. Like, right before they were to begin running the final, they had to have this little soccer match, and whoever won, whoever got the most goals, like best 5 goals or whatever, past each other, got this 2-minute advantage. And Jody beat Svetlana for that 2-minute advantage, and then she just basically was just faster than Svetlana. She was a powerhouse leading up to that, and it was almost no surprise, although I don't want to say that. There was some hope. I mean, there was some possibilities there, but no, she did a great job, and she wins, and she banks $150,000. Now, that is the biggest amount of money that's ever been given in the history of the challenges. So there you go. She is on the number 8, and she's only won. This is only her second final. Look at how small that how much she made previously. $26,000, 666. Like, that's nothing compared to 150,000. What a fucking leap. So a total of $176,666. So let's go to the 7th richest challenger, Real World Landon Luke, I think is how it's pronounced. Landon's first appearance was season 10 of the Inferno 2. He finds himself in Manzanillo, Mexico. I don't know how to pronounce that. Playing for the good guys, running a final against the badasses. Yeah, this was the 4-person team that just... It was Landon and Darrell, and they were just running it effortlessly like a couple of fucking horses. You know, they were just these amazing athletes, and dragging them down, not just a tiny bit, was Mike the Miz, a fucking, you know him as a wrestler now, and then Jamie Chung. She's a fucking actress in The Hangover Part 2 and other shit. Sorority Row? I don't know, something like that. There's another one. Maybe Sucker Punch. I hope, but I think it's Sucker Punch. But yeah, so like they're being, dragged down a little bit by these fucking huge ass celebrities. But it does not matter, because on the other side, Team Badasses, like I said before with Derek and all those guys, they did not get along. Tanya and Tina, they slowed them down even worse. They were slower than Miz and slower than Jamie. And like I said, they weren't even that bad. If you know Mike the Miz, he's a tremendous athlete in this thing, and he's been to plenty of finals. And now, like, Landon is like the new generation. He's like, this is my first fucking final, old man. Let's get going, And yeah, they end up winning it. Good guys win. They bank $57,500. All I have written down up to the final is that they started losing Infernos. Like, they lost. That's why there was only 4 of them. A lot of them did not come back from those elimination rounds. But they started winning missions at the end. They started to build momentum and all that stuff. And they worked together as a great unit. Little 4-person package. Let's get to Landon's second appearance, season 11, The Gauntlet 2. He finds himself in Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago, playing for the rookies, running a final against the veterans. I said this previously with Jody. Like, this was an eating contest. The vets bet it all on the eating contest. They thought they were, what's that eating competitor's name? Oh my god, I can't think of it now. Shit. You always want to pull out a reference and stuff, because I'm like, is this funny at all? I think I'm just naming out facts, but Landfill. Yeah, there we go. Landfill. It's a Beer Fest reference played by Farva from Super Troopers. There you go. So, yeah, Landon, he didn't have to eat. He was signed up to do the wind sprints, I think, up and down the beach. But he didn't have to eat. And to his surprise, he got an instant win because his teammates out-ate the veterans' teammates. There he goes. He wins his second final in a row and banks $26,666. And leading up to this, very even team. rookies and veterans. You had no idea how it was going to go. And Landon was like the second in command. Him and Alton were like, the two generals, the two, leading the team. All right, Landon's fourth appearance, season 19, Fresh Meat 2. He finds himself in Whistler, British Columbia, Canada, playing with Carly, running a final against Kenny and Laurel, Jillian and Pete, and Jen and Nor. Now, I just remember Landon literally pushed Carly's ass up the mountain. Like, he put his head right there, pushed her up, and it was completely symbolic for the entire thing. Like, Carly is a good competitor, but Landon is just like 10 dudes in one. And he bulldozed his way into that final. It was a complete upset because Kenny and Laurel were the dominating team up to that point. So he wins, and he banks $100,000. Leading up to that point, he was under the radar. He did make an alliance, however, kind of like the first time he's ever done that. And that kind of helped him get through the weeks, get to where he needed to go, and then he had to go through some eliminations to get to the final. But it's just that it was a good season. It really was. Like, when he had to fucking stand up and do shit, he fucking did it. Total earnings for Landon is $184,166. Moving on to the sixth richest challenger, Fresh Meat, Cara Maria Sorbello. Cara's second appearance was season 20 Cutthroat. She finds herself in Prague, the Czech Republic, playing for the gray team, running a final against the red team and the blue team. A three-team melee. Yeah. About this, even though her team suffered a lot of illnesses, like, they lost 2 players on their team, Abram, the captain, and Sarah. They're taken out on stretchers, and they're just slowed down so much. But Cara Maria in particular, surpassed expectations by Laurel and Sarah. Like, they really were giving her shit throughout, leading up to this final. So they lose. She loses, but she does bank $20,000. She was on a really good team. And I felt like she performed just as well as everyone else. But for some reason, there was like this mean girl thing with Laurel and Sarah. Just being, they just wanted to look down on someone. And yeah, Cara was picked on for it. But yeah, surpassed expectations is what I'm going to say. Cara's third appearance, season 21, Rivals. She finds herself in Argentina, playing with Laurel, running a final against Evelyn and Paula and Jen and Mandy. What I've written down for this final is that, hey, her and Laurel worked well together, but they were just simply outdone by Evelyn and Paula. At that point, those two were such seasoned veterans. They were just two perfect machines, and they were put together against Laurel and Cara Maria. Cara Maria loses, but she banks $26,000. $1,000 of that comes from one of the mission wins. You got money back in the day for winning missions every once in a while. It's great. Let's go to Cara's sixth appearance, season 24, Rivals 2. She finds herself in Phuket, Thailand, playing with Cook, running a final against Emily and Paula and Camilla and Jamie. This is a rematch of sorts, where Cara Maria and her rival are against Paula and her fucking rival. Cara Maria and Cook, they ended up winning day one, which was Island 1, Dream Island, if you don't recall. They had to swim to that island, do the puzzle, and then solve it and kayak back. And so they won day one. They go into day two, and they just kind of fall apart. In particular, though, Cara Maria. I will say that this was probably her worst final she's ever had. Lots of complaining when they had to carry those corpses. They weren't really corpses, but when they had to carry those things on a stretcher, like, she was dropping it a lot and complaining about the heat and stuff. And Cook was just like, listen, I'm doing the same thing, but I'm not bitching and complaining. You know what? They lose, but she banks $17,500. And I would say, leading up to this point, probably her worst season as well. Like, she did fail a lot. They ended up going into a lot of eliminations because they got last place. Let's go into Cara's eighth appearance, season 27, Battle of the Bloodlines. She finds herself in Berlin, Germany, playing with Jamie, her cousin Jamie, running a final against Corey and Mitch, and Jenna and Brianna. All I have written right now is that she was kind of complaining, again, kind of suffering a little bit. Just I don't know. It was kind of a bad final on day one. This particular final was divided into about 2 days. But day one, she came in second place. She was getting beat by Jenna and Brianna. But in day two, that's where they came back. And they just dominated physically, mentally, like all that stuff. They were really strong in day two. So they come back, they win overall. She banks $125,000. Huge purse. I have written down that leading up to the final, she was on a dominating big team. And then once they were put together as partners, reestablished, they basically just survived a bunch of eliminations to get into the final. Total earnings, $188,500. The fifth richest challenger, Fresh Meat, Laurel Stuckey. Laurel's first appearance, season 19, Fresh Meat 2. She finds herself in Whistler, British Columbia, Canada, playing with Kenny, running a final against Landon and Carly, Jillian and Pete, and Jen and Nor. All I have to say about this is that leading up to it, it's like they were the dominating team. Kenny and Laurel, they won an insane amount of missions, and they controlled the game. And not only that, but the majority of their alliance made it to the final, minus Landon and Carly. And those two were the ones that beat them. To me, it was quite shocking. It was quite an upset. I could not believe it. Laurel's first appearance, her first season, she gets to the final. She loses, but you know what? She banks $30,000. That's really awesome. Laurel's second appearance, season 20, Cutthroat. She finds herself in Prague, Czech Republic, playing for Team Grey, running a final against Team Red and Team Blue. Her team was set back by illnesses. Abram, Sarah. She loses. I guess I should bring this up. As soon as Sarah finally admits that she cannot run this final anymore and she leaves, that actually set them back a lot more than when Abram did. But yeah, her second appearance in a row, her second final in a row. She gets second place once again. It hurts because she was once again on a dominating team that season. She loses and she banks $20,000. Good, right? But it's also $10,000 less than what she did her first final. I wonder if she kind of noticed that and got really annoyed by that. Laurel's third appearance, season 21, Rivals. She finds herself in Argentina, playing with Cara Maria, running a final against Evelyn and Paula and Jen and Mandy. Laurel and Cara Maria, they work fine. They were able to become a cohesive unit by the end of it, but it didn't matter. They were up against Evelyn and Paula. So she lost. She banks $26,000. $1,000 of that comes from a mission that she won that season. She did okay. It was just throughout the season though, her and Cara were playing second fiddle to Evelyn and Paula, or third and fourth fiddle to first and second fiddle Evelyn and Paula. Laurel's fourth appearance, season 25, Free Agents. She finds herself in Chile, playing individually, running a final against Nani and Devin. And out of the 3 of the 5 checkpoints, she has to cooperate. She has to work with Bananas, then Johnny, Riley, and then Zach. And that's noteworthy. She actually did struggle quite a bit with Zach. Zach had this huge breakdown on the mountain, and I was really frightened that it would cost her the final, but it didn't. She ends up beating Nani and Devin for her first win, and she banks $125,000. A huge payout. And in fact, the past few recent seasons, it really pays to win these things. You've been watching, take a look at all those small amounts that they've been getting for these wins. She finally won. She won a lot of missions leading up to that final. She went in a lot of eliminations leading up to that final, and she just straight up outperformed everybody. Her total earnings, $201,000. Let's get to the fourth richest challenger, Fresh Meat, Kenny Santucci. Kenny's first appearance, season 12, Fresh Meat. He finds himself in Australia playing with Tina, running a final against Darrell and Aviv and Wes and Casey. And from what I can remember about this final, Darrell's partner Aviv was just straight up better at puzzles than Kenny's partner Tina was. Because Kenny really couldn't help with any of these puzzles. It was I think they ran 12 miles down a beach, and it was just puzzles and then if you didn't get them right, it depends on how much weight you have to carry and stuff like that. So they end up losing. Kenny ends up losing. He ends up taking second place. Banks $15,000. Leading up to that point, I believe they won the mission, and they won in exile when it counted. I think they won the mission leading up to this to, like, automatically punch their ticket to the final. And they had to go into one elimination, which they won, so it was like good for them. Kenny's third appearance, season 14, the Infernal 3. He finds himself in Somerset West, South Africa, playing for the Badasses, running a final against the good guys. All I gotta say about this final, the Badasses, they won this elongated puzzle. It was just these puzzle pieces that they dragged throughout the wilderness against the good guys. The good guys, of course, were miscast. They didn't get along. They weren't actually good guys at all. And Badasses ended up working together really well. So they win, and Kenny banks $40,000. Kenny's fourth appearance, season 15, the Gauntlet 2. He finds himself in Riveria, Nauru. Oh shit, somewhere in Mexico, playing for the veterans team, running a final against the rookies. This was a huge upset. Big Easy, one of Kenny's teammates, has to be taken out on a stretcher. Like, he started slowing down immediately. They continue to, like, drag this man when he's turning white, when his eyes are rolling in the back of his head and shit. They're carrying him forever, and then finally he gets taken out on a stretcher. And then once that happens, by that time the rookies have surpassed them because they're just being slowed down by Big Easy. Once they cut Big Easy off the chain, off the leash, they continue on. And they, in fact, like, the rookies got to the final, to the flag, and the veterans catch up to the rookies, and the final thing is you have to dig through the sand, capture the flag. So the veterans get there, they capture the flag, they raise it, and then TJ's like, nope, you didn't. You had to complete it with everyone. Like, he said that at the very beginning. For this particular final, no man can be left behind, because that was the whole theme of it. And everyone forgot. They're like, oh shit, I thought that's what you say all the time, but it doesn't mean a thing, or something like that. I don't know. But they end up not getting it. So now the veterans have to sit there. Kenny has to sit there and wait for the rookies to dig up the flag and to actually win. And yeah, what a bummer. And what makes it worse is that he banked no money for this season, as far as I can remember. I'm really trying to remember. I don't think, maybe they won prizes, but in terms of the final, he did not make any money. And it sucks because that team, he was on a dominating team that season. They did incredible. So lopsided. So it wasn't even funny, really. I didn't think so. So Kenny's fifth appearance, season 16, the island. He finds himself on an island in Panama, playing for the red boat, rowing against the blue boat. As I said before, this is Kenny, Derek, Johnny Bananas, and Evelyn, rowing against the blue boat, which was Paula, Robin, Jen, and Ryan. Kenny, I think Kenny got to pick the teams. I think TJ was just like, hey, Kenny, who's the teams, man? Bud. I don't know what happened, but I think that's what happened. So they row against the other boat, and they bank $75,000. Crazy. Let's go to Kenny's sixth appearance, season 18, the Ruins. He finds himself in Phuket, Thailand, playing for the champions, running a final against the challengers. Again, this is with the same guys he just won with on the island, picking up Evan, dropping off Evelyn for a Susie, running against Kellyanne and Sarah Rice. And like I said, they were getting beat for a while, and then they eventually passed up the challengers. They got to that final puzzle, and they solved it faster than the challengers. Oh, they solved it. Challengers didn't solve it. Susie, Evan, probably, maybe mostly Susie, solves the puzzle. Kenny wins and banks $51,293. And this was a dominating season for Kenny. Kenny's seventh appearance, season 19, Fresh Meat 2. He finds himself in Whistler, British Columbia, Canada, playing with Laurel, running a final against Landon and Carly, Jillian and Pete and Jen and Nor. He was strong in this final, but he was simply outdone by Landon. Kenny and Laurel worked great up into this point, up into this final, and they continue to work great, but this is where Landon turned on the fucking the afterburners, just gave it everything that he's got, and yeah, Upset. It's too bad for Kenny. He loses, but he banks $30,000. Kenny's 8th appearance, season 21, Rivals. He finds himself in Argentina, playing with Wes, running a final against Johnny and Tyler, and Leroy and Mike. All I have to say about this is that Wes may have struggled on this final. That was kind of a great moment in the final. But Kenny and Wes did beat their opponents on day 1 by 45 minutes when they get to that part where they have to then stand on rocks overnight. I think they've kicked Johnny and Tyler's ass on day 1. That's a huge lead. And to have that cut down by a 2-minute lead in day 2 was ridiculous. And even more ridiculous was climb up this mountain, 2-minute head start, find these, like a metal detector basically, or avalanche detectors. So you just follow this little piece, this little device that you have to find. So that's luck by itself. Then you got to try and understand this technology after staying up the entire time. So it was dumb. I didn't care for it. But so it was at that moment where Johnny and Tyler, they found their device, they found the key, and they won. So Kenny loses. He banks $25,000. And all I have to say up to this point is, like, Kenny was great in this final. Wes looked bad, but then Kenny looked bad in the season leading up to it. A lot of failures, a lot of automatically into elimination, and where Wes was able to step up his game. He was basically saved in elimination by Wes, because that's where Wes's strength is. And it does suck that they lost the way they did. Kenny's total earnings, $236,293. Third richest challenger, Road Rules, Darrell Taylor. Darrell's first appearance, season 7, The Gauntlet. I mean, this is old school right here. He finds himself in Telluride, Colorado, playing for the Road Rules team, running a final against Real World. Real World, they suffered from a spider bite. This was Coral. She finally DQs herself after that she was bitten right away. Like Road Rules, Darrell and his team, they got this huge lead because Coral, she just could not breathe. The other team was suffering from this, and it was really tragic because this was a smaller team. Road Rules was a bigger team, and so right now this is great for Darrell and his team. And they actually, once Coral drops out, the rest of Real World is able to surpass them and get to the puzzle. And it was at this puzzle where Road Rules ended up becoming the victor. They solved it first. They won. So Darrell wins, and he banks $25,555. Wow. And I do remember cars being in there. I don't really know how to count all that, but this is just what it said on the bank. You know what I mean? So leading up to this, Sol against Real World in missions, but they dominated eliminations, which is why they had a small team. Real World had a small team at the end. Darrell's second appearance, season 8, The Inferno. He finds himself in Acapulco, Mexico, playing for the Road Rules team, running a final against Real World. They took the lead at the random piñata. I remember that because this was the final where it was really quick. But there was the 7 deadly sins. So every little checkpoint was about that. And I just remember, again, Darrell and his Road Rules team has this huge team that they have to get through the entire thing. Meanwhile, Real World has this small little group. So what I can tell is that they took the lead at the random piñata because it was just random. You had to smash and you had to find a key randomly. So Road Rules are able to take off. But they were surpassed in greed, as I remember. They were supposed to stack money, and then the team decided to go one by one, handing off like a what's it called, a fire line or something like that. I don't remember. But they did get surpassed. But once they got to the pride, the puzzles, the questions and stuff, the trivia, that's when they beat Real World. And so now Darrell wins his second final in a row, banks $32,500. And in particular, leading up to this was indeed the dominating team. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. Road Rules just kicked Real World's ass. And this is the last time they'll ever face each other. Yeah, this was the last season to pit Real World versus Road Rules. Now it would change forevermore. Darrell's third appearance, season 10, The Inferno 2. He finds himself in Manza something, Mexico. Plays for the good guys, running a final against the badasses. Darrell and Landon, they have to wait up for Miz and Jamie Chung. Like, this was a solid little group of good guys versus the dysfunctional badasses, as I've said before with Derek. Just gotta wait on these future stars. They're not winded at all. Darrell wins his third final in a row and banks $57,500. Leading up to it, their team started off bad, lost a lot in the Infernos, but got better throughout the season and became a cohesive unit. I think I said that before. Darrell's fourth appearance, season 12, fresh meat. He finds himself in Australia, playing with Aviv, running a final against Tina and Kenny and Wes and Casey. Darrell's partner Aviv, she out-puzzles Tina because, Wes and Casey weren't ever really in the running. They just kind of fought their way there. So it was really Darrell and Aviv versus Kenny and Tina. And it was puzzles. I don't really think Darrell really helped too much. It was mostly Aviv. Wins that for him. They win. He banks $125,000. And huge payout. That was probably the biggest payout up to that point. And you know what? Leading up to this, he was under the radar, which is what his usual tactic is. I mean, this was back in the day, the older seasons, obviously, where there was just a huge mass of people. He just was always under the radar. He didn't get into fights. Darrell's total earnings, $240,555. The second richest challenger, real world, Wes Bergman. Wes's first appearance, season 12, fresh meat. He finds himself in Australia playing with Casey, running a final against Darrell and Aviv and Tina and Kenny. They struggle with the weight. This is a 12-mile run through the beach, and they suck at puzzles. They basically survived up to this point to get to the final, and they were going to get money no matter what. They just had to finish. So they lose. They get third place, but he banks $10,000. And like I said, leading up to this, survived elimination. Wes's second appearance, season 13, the duel, he finds himself in Brazil, playing individually, running a final against Brad. Wes beats Brad in this soccer match to determine who gets to start the final with a 2-minute lead. I mean, this is soccer. It thematically matches Brazil. And Wes beats Brad for that 2-minute long advantage. And Wes just keeps the lead the entire time. And he ends up winning. And he banks $150,000, the biggest prize money ever given to this day. As far as leading up to this point, he won the last two crucial missions leading up to this. Wes's fifth appearance, season 21 Rivals, he finds himself in Argentina playing with Kenny, running a final against Johnny and Tyler and Leroy and Mike. And although he struggled, Wes, he ends up having this huge fucking, like a golf ball size cramp. It was this mega alien looking cramp. It was crazy. And Kenny ends up throwing Wes on his back and carrying him up the mountain a ways. And it was a great scene. However, what they don't show you is that apparently Kenny and Wes got to that overnight checkout point by 45 minutes before Johnny and Tyler, which means Kenny and Wes, they just fucking lit up the final. Then they get to the rocks. They get that 2-minute lead, but they have to wait until it's like 7 or 8 in the morning. And then they have to run up this mountain with only a 2-minute lead, hope to God to find these detectors, and then figure out what it all means to find the key to unlock the grand prize. They don't do it in time. So he does bank $25,000. And they had to win a lot of eliminations to get to the final. And I would say their first half of their season was just them failing, getting into last place, automatically going to elimination. That's where Wes was able to shine and keep them in the game. Wes's 8th appearance, season 24, Rivals 2. He finds himself in Phuket, Thailand, playing with CT, running a final against Johnny and Frank and Jordan and Marlon. Wes and CT end up winning day 1, Island 1, which was Dream Island. And then they go on to win Island number 2, Nightmare Island. And from what I could tell, they lapped Johnny and Frank in this final. And they end up winning. Wes banks $62,500. Wes and CT, they won the last 2 important missions leading up to this point. And total earnings, $247,500. The richest challenger real world, Johnny Bananas Davanzio. Devenanzio. I don't know. But Johnny Bananas, everyone knows him as. Let's get to John's second appearance, season 14, the Inferno 3. He finds himself in Somerset West, South Africa, playing for the good guys. Who'd have thunk it? Running a final against the badasses. Like I said before, ironically, these good guys did not work together or trust each other. They just bickered amongst each other, and they didn't trust and they ended up losing that final, where it was just like, you just had to keep putting this puzzle together. It was a crazy, weird final. But yeah, they end up losing, but he banks $10,000. Johnny's fourth appearance, season 16, The Island. He finds himself on an island in Panama, playing for the Red Boat, running a final against a blue boat. It's Johnny and Derek and Kenny and Evelyn against Paula, Robin, Jen, and Ryan. I mean, this was such a lopsided final. All you did was paddle in a boat to an island that you've seen the entire season. It was so lackluster. It was just so pitiful. It was so unfair. It was so confusing. But it didn't matter, man. What mattered was the cash, and so they win, and they bank $75,000 each. That's awesome. And leading up to this point, you know what? Johnny made a shitload of enemies, especially a bunch of these chicks, and I would have to say he got to that final because he was saved by Kenny. Kenny making that deal with Evelyn. Johnny's fifth appearance, season 18, The Ruins, finds himself in Phuket, Thailand, playing for the champions, running a final against the challengers, and they're playing catch-up nearly the entire time. And they actually have to carry Susie on their back. And Johnny was just like the whole time, he's like, God damn it, I don't want Susie on the team. She's going to suck. I lost the Inferno 3 with her because I didn't trust her and shit. But you know what? They eventually surpass the rookies. And then Susie ends up coming in the clutch of solving the puzzle. They take off. They end up winning. Johnny wins and banks $53,293. Leading up to that, they had a dominating season. Johnny had a dominating season and defeated Dunbar for his personal account. So we just got a little bit more than his other guy players. I think Susie ended up making way more. But either way, Johnny's seventh appearance, season 21, Rivals. He finds himself in Argentina, playing with Tyler, running a final against Kenny and Wes and Leroy and Mike. You know what? They did a steady job, but was killed by the 45 minutes in day one, which they really didn't tell you. They didn't tell you on the show. You had to learn it from like interviews after the fact and all that. But you know what? They might have got beat on day one, and they had to catch up 2 minutes on day two, but they ended up doing it. They ended up finding their detectors on the mountain, and they ended up finding the keys, and they won. And Johnny, he banks $53,000, and 3,000 of those that was won on missions throughout the season. Johnny's eighth appearance, season 22, Battle of the X's, finds himself in Iceland, playing with Camilla, running a final against CT and Diem and Emily and Ty. This was the crazy thing. Johnny and Camilla, they are playing catch-up the entire time. CT and Diem are in the lead the entire time. And it seemed like, I might be totally off, but it seemed like the last 300 feet, CT just stops moving. Like, he cannot breathe. He cannot move. Well, he can breathe, but it's just, cigarettes, they say. Because he smoked cigarettes, he couldn't move anymore. And Diem's there, and she just can't go on without CT. And so Johnny and Camilla are able to surpass them with, like, just a little bit more to go, and they get it. They get the win. Oh, it was crazy. So Johnny Bananas wins and banks $75,000. Huge purse. Not since the island has he gotten paid so much. And you know what? He also had a dominating season. Him and Camilla, they were the power couple, I would have to say. CT and Diem were the slowly emerging power couple. And those two, to come to a head like that, and then for it to turn out it was crazy. It was nuts. I could not believe that CT ended up dying like that. Johnny's ninth appearance, season 24, Rivals 2. He finds himself in Phuket, Thailand, playing with Frank, running a final against CT and Wes, and Jordan and Marlon. Johnny and Frank, they end up surviving day one, Island 1, Dream Island. Had they gotten third place, they would have been eliminated from the final. But they were able to surpass Jordan and Marlon, and they ended up being able to participate in day two, Island 2, Nightmare Island. But once they got there, Johnny slowed Frank down. Like there was almost like no sense of urgency as far as I think that was what Frank was saying. And CT and West, they just would not let up their lead. They just kept on. Like I heard that they were lapped at one point. Johnny, he loses and he banks $17,500. Leading up to that point, you know what? They did well politically, never had to go in, and they won 2 missions. Johnny's 10th appearance, season 25, free agents. He finds himself in Chile, and he's playing individually, running a final against Johnny Riley and Zach. Along the way, he has to combine forces with Laurel, Devin, and Nani. He worked well with each female partner, and then he won one of the 2 individual checkpoints, that little biking thing. I mean, like he made so much money off of this. He wins, banks $125,000. Great mission work leading up to that point, and he was a survivalist. He had to actually go in 3 eliminations. I mean, people were after him, and so were the challenge gods. He went in there by luck. But yeah, total earnings, $408,793. Huge jump from everyone else on the list. But there you have it. No wonder the guy will not be retiring anytime soon. But yeah, there you go. There you have it. That is the top 10 richest challenge finalists. So yeah, like this video if you liked it, like it. Subscribe. This is a weekly podcast. So to get your fix, subscribe. You'll get a notification every time we drop an episode. It's either going to be about some random list that I've come up with, or it's going to be a recap and review of an episode that we're covering. Comment if you wish. I'm kind of bad at getting back to people, but go ahead and do it anyways. Share this with fans, with other people that you know enjoy the challenge, because that's all we do here is talk about the challenge, man. All right, I am Vincent Cloud. This is Battle of the Challenges podcast, and thank you for listening.